Okay, so
Can I ask you a question?
yeah, sure. Sure.
I want to know if all this case is about politics and power. What is really about the people who are suffering from Zika? Like the recommendation, are we are, is it about that even? Like this is a
Okay.
little bit.
Okay, so first of all, I've a couple different answers for you. First of all, this is a course in leadership. So what we're talking about is the dynamics of people working in organizations and the dynamics of different organizations, okay? The focus of this course is not on the substance of these diseases or the people who are affected, all right? However, your point is very, very pertinent, and that is the perfect way for us to go into this next discussion. What about the people? Because that's what you're supposed to be doing in both organizations, is not just worrying about your job and getting fired or being quiet or talking. It's to serve. It's to serve. And in public health, it's to serve the people. And one of the challenges, I would say, is in any organization, people will forget the point that you just made. They're so concerned about keeping their job or getting a better job or arguing with the other organization that they forget what their real mission is. So I think you need to remember what the mission is. But you can't be successful about the mission unless you can work within the organization and unless the organization works. So it's both. And you'll see people who are waving a flag for what about the people, and they get nowhere because they don't know how to work in the organization. So you need both. You see what I'm saying with that? So with that, then, let's talk about the policy issues, okay? Let's start with policy and some politics. Would the US CDC make the recommendations that they're making, and would WHO oppose them? And why? We've talked about the power politics between these two organizations. And for the purpose of the recording, we're just going to very simply say the US CDC is much more powerful than WHO as it controls money. So, that may not be fair, and many people would say it's not fair. If you look at the UN, and WHO is a UN agency, the UN is so dependent on the United States, okay? And when you have a leadership in the United States that is enlightened or supportive of global issues, then you have more money coming to the UN and the UN agencies, like WHO. Whereas today we have an administration that is opposed to global issues in the United States. And the consequence is that UN programs are suffering very substantially because we pay a third to half of we meaning the United States, pays a third to the half of the budget for these programs. Okay, the United States just closed funding for UNRWA. Is it UNRWA? It's the agency that serves the Palestinian population outside of Israel, the camps. Okay, I think that's UNRWA. Yeah, it's a specific UN agency. It's not WHO. It's a specific UN agency for Palestinians. Provides health care and education for them. In the United States, they said we're not paying it anymore. Budget got cut in half or something. Okay, so there's the power relationship between organizations, and then there's what are the policy issues that you see here? Why would the U.S. support this, and why would the WHO oppose these recommendations?
Regarding policy?
Yeah, the policy issues. Why does the U.S. want to, how is it that the U.S. can say, women shouldn't get pregnant in Africa for a year?
Because they don't live there.
They don't live there, right?
They don't deal with implementation.
The U.S. primary concern on this is going to be, we don't want Zika coming to the United States. And what do we care if there are no pregnancies in Africa for a year? In Africa, what's the response?
They will not agree with this kind of.
Of course not.
They will not even understand that. It's like something.
What is it going to mean to them? How are they going to interpret this?
Like an imposing.
The US is trying to control
It's
their population.
Yes.
How?
Discrimination, maybe.
Discrimination.
Racism.
It's racism.
Yes.
This is blatant racism as seen by Africans. Is it racism as seen by the United States?
I don't believe that these were actually discussed by these two organizations.
These were proposals.
By the CDC?
These were proposals that were nationally and internationally proposed during the hot part of Zika. And likewise, closing the Olympics
Was
in
it
Brazil.
CDC's proposal?
It was being discussed. It was being discussed, okay. I don't know exactly where, I actually don't remember. I just don't remember whether CDC really, they were proposing, CDC was pretty active in some of this stuff. Okay. And it wouldn't surprise me, now, okay, let's go back. If the CDC proposed these arguments, would it be for racist reasons?
No.
It would be for selfish reasons.
Selfish but not racist.
Defensive, like they are being defensive
Right.
towards a potential
50
racist.
years ago, it would have been racist. Okay? Today, I would submit it wouldn't be racist. But would the U.S. government understand that it was being seen as being racist?
Somewhat.
Some would and some wouldn't. Some wouldn't understand. The previous CDC director, I can tell you, I knew her. I met her a few times, okay? She wouldn't have understood this. And she was probably director when this was going on altogether. Okay? She would, because she was the health commissioner in Georgia, and she was completely oblivious to racial issues, as far as I'm concerned, where a third of the population is black in the state of Georgia, okay? And gone, okay?
It could seem too like intrusive or controlling more than racist, isn't it?
Okay.
Like invading of autonomy. I don't know how to
Paternalistic.
No,
Oh,
for me,
but
like,
if
when,
you look at the history, it completely can look like a discrimination when coming from the US and everything that happened there. And
if the Zika virus comes to Europe, do the CDC do this, like, provide the pregnancies?
Well,
Until, like,
they did make
2020?
this recommendation in the US, so I would believe they did recommend that women in the US, if they plan on being pregnant, don't travel to areas that have Zika. They were very clearly gave that guidance. I find it hard to believe that this discussion was happening in relation to Africa. That I don't think
It was actually South America.
realistically.
It was South
in
America.
Mexico,
Yeah,
in
because-
Mexico, these measures were taken about the recommendation of the pregnancy in the affected areas. That was done.
Yeah.
So,
There
And in
wasn't,
the Caribbean, because we were in Martinique and everybody was
Yeah.
talking about it.
So they did do this one in a targeted way. I think A is very different than B and C ethically and stuff. I mean, advocating for safe sex practices is rarely a bad thing. Linking it to Zika and not in Africa is a bit crazy, but it wouldn't surprise me for the CDC to advocate for safe sex practices. Closing the World Cup, I do not believe that the CDC ever advocated for that.
okay, let's just take this for a minute. It wasn't, but there was a lot of discussion about the Olympics, okay? So let's just take this and we gotta stop. The World Cup is soccer. The United States doesn't care about soccer, but the rest of the world cares a great deal about soccer, okay? This is a classic example of the United States offending the rest of the world through its ignorance, okay? And that's why I put this in, okay, is to understand the perspective of the United States on the one hand, or a power country. It doesn't just have to be the United States. It could be China, okay, today, okay, because China's extremely powerful, okay? Or some other, even the UK, all right, not as powerful as it once was. And the impact that it has culturally and politically, okay? And look, I picked this because I picked Moscow because, of course, the United States would be happy to have Moscow lose something, okay? There's absolute geopolitics involved with these things. And to not understand that is to miss a good part of how these things go.
But I should tell that when this happened in Mexico, those measures, and in Miami, I was going to travel to Martinique, and before entering the plane, huge posters were there, be careful if you're planning to have a family in the next 2 years, this is a Zika affected area, you are in risk of having babies with malformations all over. And when we get to the airport in Martinique, they were giving pamphlets and everything. That was done, and in Mexico, in Cancun and Playa del Carmen, a lot of this was done.
And one of the big things in public health, and I'll just end with this, is do you force people to do things, or do you educate, advise, and try to change, okay? And there's a big dilemma with all of this, depending on how serious it is. Do you require vaccinations, or do you advise vaccinations? If you advise vaccinations and only 90% of the people get vaccinated, then you have failed, okay? Depends what the infectious agent is, okay? So there may be some circumstances where you require it, period, it's required. And then there are others where in public health, all we want to do is educate and inform and try to get people to do what we think they should do. Stop smoking, lose weight, wear helmets and bicycles, okay?
Yes.
So it depends what it is.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, we got to stop. Thanks. And we meet again on Monday. We have class Monday and Tuesday, not on Thursday.
We are missing our
Quiz. We're gonna do the quiz now.
Yeah, we can do the quiz now, the two of you, okay? We'll do it outside or we'll find a little place.
You're an extra pen?
I think we have to leave here, let's see. Okay, tonight, 7:30,
7:30 or 7:15?
it's changed back.